Alright everybody, I haven't made a video in a while. I was actually kind of waiting for this. I figured Red Hook would be putting out a patch sooner or later, as we're halfway through December. This will probably be one of the last ones they do in December. Sounds like they'll be back in January, full strength. And they got about a month and a quarter left to push out the rest of the game, so we'll be interested to see if they do it. So yeah, relationships, that's the big one. Everyone's been waiting for this, and they pretty much changed the whole system. And we're going to kind of talk about the negatives, the positives, and if it's really going to affect a lot of gameplay or not. So this is just random jargon we don't care about. Alright, so stress is going to be building normally, but they brought back in the coin flip results. That does not sound for positive relationships. I'll read this correctly. At max stress, a hero will most likely have a meltdown, but there's a chance to become resolute instead. Unlike D&D 1, meltdown and resolutes are not enduring, which means they're just going to, I guess, have that immediate moment of impact, whether good, bad, or whatever. So that's very interesting that they didn't, like, completely screw you when a hero reaches max stress. Course and trinkets are going to affect that, just like in the first game, virtue chance. So really just kind of going back to the old D&D 1 there, just not with enduring effects, as they said. Affinity, why can't we be friends? Was a little too truthful, not tactful enough. That's true. Our goal is to resign, reduce the drag of play. So relationships have pseudo taken a backseat. You'll see later they will be either really good, or I don't know if a negative relationship will ruin a run or anywhere, but it's certainly not going to make a run anymore. And we'll talk about why it's not going to make a run. So all random after the fact affinity gains losses combat have been removed. I kind of forget those, but telegraphing. This is kind of an interesting one. It's also nice. This is going to be, when you select an action, you're going to see whether it's positive or negative. As you can see here, Dismas is bleeding out, but you want to use Man-at-Arms Guard on someone else. Dismas will be displeasure very clear. So that way you don't do something, then you're like, oh, they screwed me over. So that's nice. It does allow you to be like, why is this going to screw me, where I can just, you know, not waste a turn doing that. Because that used to be the annoying thing. Well, it wasn't a waste of a turn, but you lose your ability to use that skill, or you have to use an item. You know, there's a lot of kind of bull crap that went into it. So that's a lot better that you can at least now decide what you need to do. And I'll be right back. Alright, the affinity scale is what we are going to be dealing with now. There is no longer like, I guess that 7 thing tree, whatever. It's now 0 to 20. You either gain or lose it, obviously. I don't know how 0 to 20 is huge, so I don't know if you're going to be gaining like 4 or 5 at a time. We're going to be getting like 1, 2, 1, 2. It's going to take like 2 or 3 areas. Probably not, because we'll talk about that. Higher numbers represent a positive vibe between the heroes, and obviously lower is negative. The scale is broken into 5 tranches, each labeled, so it's easy for you to know how people are feeling. So I'm assuming it'll be hated, not great, like lukewarm, fuzzy, and best friend. You know, it'll be like that kind of scale, something like that. So relationships, till the end do us apart. Relationships can only form at the end, which this is going to be the interesting part, and will only last for the entire next region. So depending on how fast these form, you may be looking to either use them in the second and final area, or maybe in the third area to get past the exemplar, and then no positive relationships after that. I don't know. We're going through this together, and there's some more stuff about that. You may be able to obviously use relationships back to back, and we'll talk about it. After arriving at the end, you'll want to purchase or use the rest up items pumped to your heroes' affinities, obviously, prior to the rest button. You'll then be shown what you're calling the embark screen, where you'll see the heroes looking out at the upcoming region. Any relationships that form overnight will be presented via click to reveal. Oh, interesting. High or low affinity heroes have the greatest likelihood of forming. Oh, okay, I missed that person. So okay, so if you keep everyone's affinity high, there's a high chance to. Okay, my bad. I thought you would. Okay. When 2 heroes enter a relationship, 1 skill from each kit is selected and modified based on the relationship. Now, this part here, I don't know if you get to do it. And that's why I'm kind of saying it may be like a run ender if you don't get to choose. Because negative relationships, cursed skills, locking the skill bar in combat, and detrimental effect. For example, like if point blank does something terrible and you're literally just running a point blank highwayman, it just kind of ruins your run there potentially, or you'll have to just get through that region without it. It's not bad, it's just I don't know quite the extent. I mean, you can always hit a skill you don't use and you're just like, well, you know, who gives a crap? I don't really use that skill. It's like one of those like really luxury skills. And then a positive relationship, you'd be like, all right, 20% chance, give me on this, you know, like Leper's Chop can now give her a strength choke, and it's always a chance. I don't know what the chance is, but we'll have to see how much these affect each other. Could be massive, could be minimal, who knows. I'll probably try to play a little this weekend. I gotta admit, I haven't been playing too much, not too much changed. But I'll definitely give this relationship system a go, maybe once or twice, and then I'll kind of wait till January again. This change essentially strips out the majority of random act-outs, thank you, and it reintroduces them in a more tactically engaging way. You might have the ability to leverage a positive relationship, incredible effect, or mitigate a negative one. Like I said, I need to play to just figure out how this is all going to work. It sounds a lot better. I can't tell if they're going to have the same effect or not. It sounds like they're going to be a big deals, and at the same time, it does sound like they might have backseated them a little. I don't know. I won't, because I was for backseating them. I know they really wanted these things to work, but I think doing some of the stuff they did now is good. Having less act outs, having some skills buffed up if people like each other, cool. Because having a positive relationship used to feel like a detriment at times. Because not only did it interrupt your gameplay, it didn't let you do certain skills. And also, like I said, it just not being able to do certain skills was just brutal. Like that's a negative action on a positive thing. So I'm glad if they got rid of that. Small scale random relationship act outs have been removed, effectively replacing them by, that's what we wanted. Oh wait. However, positive relationships have two themes. Big deal, act outs each. They are powerful in direct combat with potentially expeditions. Oh, okay, so that's not that bad. Because relationships only last one region, this is a heavy chance to reform at the next end. Affinity still matters. Arriving at the low affinity will most likely result in a new negative one. The only question is, I always wish they had at least starting percentages, because I don't know if it's like 80-20, 60-40, 50, This stuff doesn't really matter. Alright, so that's new relationship system. It's obviously going to need tweaked a little bit. So we'll obviously have to figure out what's too strong, too negative. Does it even impact the game? Is it just so small that it's insignificant? We won't really know until we probably play for a week or two. You used to need relationships pretty much to do really well, but they were so annoying, interrupted gameplay so much. I am kind of surprised it took them, over a year to at least fix that aspect. But I mean, they did fix it, but it was a long time waiting. I think overall this is better. I think the smaller relationships play a role. This is my personal opinion. You may disagree. I think the better, and I think this is kind of backseating. It's like making them more important without making the relationship as broken, if that makes any sense. Like, yes, you need to keep good affinity and stress down, but at the same time, doesn't sound like it's going to necessarily be run ending if you have a negative relationship, or even two potentially. So I kind of enjoy that, because it used to be at least for me, I used to get one negative relationship. I didn't want to deal with it. I just left. Like, if I didn't have all the items to immediately reverse it at the end, I said screw it. Like, I don't even want to deal with it. And then obviously you could get like two positive relationships in the first area and just cruise through the game. So I think they definitely took a small backseat. Oh, this is interesting. This is gonna be the embark screen. Okay. Yeah, I think it was positive by removal. I think before they were just chronically acting out too much, making choices for you, just interrupting gameplay. I don't think, well, honestly, so I think this is a lot better. By putting them a little bit on the back seat. Now, that's just my first impression. They may actually be more impactful now than they were before. All right. Well, I'll try to put up a probably gameplay video or two next week. I've been just really busy with the holidays and the house and the baby, so I tell you what, it's been and like I said, after the new boss came out, I don't think they really had too many other patches, so I think this was the biggest one. Since then, we probably won't expect one for the New Year's, obviously, with all the holidays coming up, probably people sick, on vacation, completely understandable, so probably next big patch is going to come out first week of January, mid-January. Though I say that, did I miss Act 4 and Act 5? They're on a crunch, because they said February 2023, and they got essentially a month and a half. Even if it's at the end of February, I mean, they got about 2 months to pump out, 2 characters, 2 bosses? Now, they are pretty far in there, but 2 characters, 2 bosses, 2 months, 2 weeks for one thing? That's not terrible, I guess. But yeah, we'll check out the void between us. Thanks for watching.